Hi, everybody. I am Jen Baker, and I am the district behaviorist in Benicia Unified School District, and this is Quicker Tips for Parents. We are going to be talking about the ABCs of behavior management. This is the second of two videos. If you haven't seen the first one, part one on antecedents, make sure to check that out before you watch this one. But today, this is part two, and we'll be talking about consequences. So when we talk about the ABCs of behavior management, this is a concept from the field of applied behavior analysis, or ABA. And basically, ABA techniques are designed to provide a roadmap to calmer, more consistent ways to respond to problem behaviors. Parents report that challenging behavior, difficult or defiant behavior is one of the biggest issues that they're facing these days. So in ABA, we're helping children develop and gain the skills to regulate their own behaviors. And it helps parents understand and respond more effectively to problem behavior by noticing what comes before and what comes after. So the first video, we talked a lot about antecedents, and this is whatever happens before the behavior. But today we'll be talking about consequences, and these are the positive or negative results that naturally follow a behavior. Sometimes when we hear the word consequence, we think it's only something negative, like a punishment or a timeout or something like that. But in ABA, when we talk about consequences, we're talking about whatever follows the behavior that makes the behavior more likely to happen or not happen in the future. So the consequences is anything that follows the behavior. So what did people do or say? What happened as a result? What did the child get or avoid? Were the activities changed? Was the behavior corrected? And this is all important information because some consequences can be helpful when we're trying to teach right from wrong, but some consequences have the opposite effect and inadvertently reinforce or make more likely the exact behaviors that we're trying to change. So let's first talk about consequences that we want to avoid. In general, attention and big reactions have the opposite effect. Putting the focus on what your kids shouldn't do may even make some kids want to do it more, especially if they're teenagers. Many children and teens value attention, and it's kind of like good or bad, doesn't matter. So whenever we give lots of attention or emotional reactions, explaining, lecturing, it actually can make the behavior worse over time. We want to avoid delayed consequences. The most effective consequences are provided immediately. And the longer you wait, the less effective your consequence will be, especially with younger kids, because they're less likely to make that link in between the behavior and the consequence. Avoid disproportionate consequences. This is hard to do because when we're frustrated or emotional about something that our kids did, we may understandably overreact, but we always want to keep negative consequences in proportion to the problem behavior. Behavioral research actually indicates that the effectiveness of consequences has to do with the consistency with which they are applied, not the magnitude or the severity of the consequence itself. So think consistency over severity. Avoid accidental reinforcement. Okay, just some examples. Your kid takes his time putting his shoes on, so you do it for him. You keep asking your teen to clean up their room and they don't do it, so you straighten it up. Someone's complaining or whining or delaying doing homework, so you let them put it away for the night. A kid's crying and complaining about dinner, so you make them something else to eat. A teenager ignores your direction to turn off the video, so you just can't face the fight, so you let them keep going for a while more. These are all examples of consequences that could actually make problem behavior more likely in the future. So what do we do instead? These are consequences we want to embrace. Catch your kids being good. Remember that consequences are not just punishments, they're also positive consequences. So instead of just waiting for problems and reacting to those, make a concerted effort to reinforce and acknowledge when your kids get it right. Corrections or negative consequences are not wrong. So I'm not saying you don't ever correct behavior, But the key is the ratio. We want to aim for 5 positives for every correction. And there's a lot more about this in some of the other videos that I've done. We want to embrace effective behavior corrections. In a nutshell, we want to make sure that we're brief and concise. We want to point out the problem by giving specific feedback or redirecting them. If we've created a home matrix, a behavior matrix where our expectations are outlined, we can refer to that. We clarify and reteach expectations. We remember to use the same calm instructional approach that we would if we were correcting an error, like if they were doing their math and they made a mistake. We're not going to like yell at them for making a mistake. We're going to find out where they got it wrong, and we're going to reteach and focus on what we expect instead. And always pair it with behavior specific praise when they turn it around and start to behave appropriately. It's good to kind of get back on track and move on. As we talked about before, we also want to embrace proportionate consequences. Again, think consistency over severity. And one of the things that are really helpful for parents is to think about natural and logical consequences that result from the choices that children make. I'm not going to talk too much about this because we have a full quick tips video. It's about a half hour, and that's all about natural and logical consequences. But that can be really helpful for parents when arranging consequences. So in summary, you want to make sure to avoid attention and big reactions, delayed consequences, disproportionate consequences, and accidental reinforcement. And you want to embrace catching them being good, giving effective corrections and try and approach it from a teaching point of view, and natural and logical consequences. So just a reminder that if you want more information, this is our parent webpage. It has tons of resources available for you, and you're watching this on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in any of the things that we talked about, there are longer videos that talk about some of these concepts more in detail. So that's it for now. See you next time. Bye for now.